First whistle then freed hostage reveals her biggest fear in Hamas captivity during protests against the Benjamin Netanyahu Israeli government on Saturday night in Tel Aviv's Hostages Square. A former captive, held by Hamas militants, told the crowd that her greatest fear in Hamas captivity wasn't cruelty by Palestinian militants, but Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. Naama Levy, an Israel Defense Forces IDF soldier, who was abducted by the militants on October 7, 2023, and was later freed earlier this year during a ceasefire hostage deal, was addressing the gathering in one of the protests after negotiations with Hamas over a hostage deal were stalled. The relatives of captives have been urging the government to agree to a deal that would see the Hamas releasing the remaining captives as part of a ceasefire in Gaza. While addressing the crowd, Levy said that she feared for the lives of the remaining hostages held in Gaza and urged the government to work for a hostage deal with Hamas. First you hear a whistle, pray it doesn't fall on you, and then the booms, a noise loud enough to paralyze you. The earth shakes, she told the crowd as quoted by the Times of Israel. She further recalled that Israeli strikes in Gaza came by surprise and she was convinced every single time that I was finished. I was convinced every single time that I was finished, and it's also what put me in the greatest danger. One of the bombardments collapsed part of the house I was in, she added. She further urged the government saying, that was my reality, and now it's their reality. At this very moment, there are hostages who hear those same whistles and booms, shaking with fear. They have nowhere to run. They can only pray and cling to the wall while feeling a horrible powerlessness. In the first days following the attack, Levy said that at first she was held alone with only her captors, saying, we were constantly on the run. There were entire days without food and little water. One day, I had nothing left, not even water. Fortunately, it started raining. My captors put a pot outside the house where I was held, and the rain filled it, she said, adding I drank that rainwater, which was enough for a pot of rice. That's what kept me going. Levy reflected on her time in captivity, expressing disbelief that anyone in Israel could truly understand the hostages' suffering and still allow them to remain in Gaza. But then the first hostages came back, and they said what was happening there, she said. She further said that her captors told the hostages they were forgotten by the people back home, but she said she did not believe them, as she would see news of protests in Israel whenever she was allowed to watch television. I knew people were fighting for me, because on Saturday nights, when I was allowed to watch television I saw you, in this square, she added. Terror groups in the Gaza Strip are holding 58 hostages, including 57 of the 251 abducted by Hamas-led terrorists on October 7, 2023. Nanan Israel has withdrawn its delegation from Qatar, citing an ongoing stalemate in ceasefire and hostage negotiations with Hamas. Swipe left for next video. And according to unnamed Israeli officials quoted by Israeli news outlets, Hamas has not accepted the American proposal that Israel agreed to and remains unwilling to reach a deal. Nan after the decision, thousands of Israelis took to the streets across the country on Saturday night for anti-government rallies, demanding an end to the war and new elections in Israel. Latest blogs.